Ladies and gentlemen, you could not script this out any better. While Republicans are rallying behind President Trump, Democrats are ripping each other apart, and nowhere is that division more obvious than in Michigan. Abdul El-Sayed needs Democrats to unite behind him if he plans on defending one of the most important Senate seats in the country, but not so fast, because some Democrats are refusing to endorse him. Others are publicly distancing themselves because he refuses to condemn Hassan Piker. And so now, with control of the Senate potentially hanging in the balance, this Democrat civil war just handed President Trump and Republicans the opening that they have been waiting for. And so we must start right here where you got fellow Democrat Congresswoman out of Michigan, right there in his own home state, Hillary Shelton. She refuses to actually endorse Abdul El-Sayed. Take a listen.
Endorsing El-Sayed, then are you wheeling it over? Yeah. And if it is, this big tent, then why not endorse it?
Yeah, so Abdul has not reached out to me yet. If he would, I would have some questions. I have not endorsed him yet. And I think as I made pretty clear, a lot of it has to do with past associations with Hassan Piker, current statements. And I have received a lot of feedback, both positive and negative from voters in my district. And one of the things that I know is I am deeply engaged on this issue, talking with folks about how they feel, but getting a lot of support from people who are saying, thanks for helping us to think really critically about this issue and to question whether this is the right direction for our party. But make no mistake, I'm not here speaking for Jamie or Sean on this issue, but I think I have been pretty clear on that. And one thing I know that voters in West Michigan have come to rely on is a representative who will speak her mind, speak with authenticity, and show up to answer even sometimes tough questions when they're posed. And that's not something I'm afraid to do.
Are you comfortable with the possibility that helps Mike Rogers win in November and possibly swings the Senate to Republicans?
I think that it's up to the top of the ticket to unify the top of the ticket. I think that's a lot of power to give a single congresswoman that I could potentially sway the outcome of the election.
There aren't many speaking out against Abdul.
I wouldn't go so far as to say I'm speaking out against him. I have spoken out against Hassan Piker pretty clearly. And
during the primary, you didn't speak out against him?
Well, I supported Haley Stevens, and I think I made the reasons clear why I did.
I mean, folks, that's not an answer. That's an admission. She was willing to back Haley Stevens. She lost, but now you're not willing to back the candidate that beat Haley Stevens. You're not willing to endorse that individual, and you have these excuses of not speaking to the person yet. I mean, hey, you're both in Michigan. You're both in the Democrat Party. Don't think it would be that hard for them to be able to connect and find each other. I mean, hey, even Chuck Schumer, after he endorsed Haley Stevens and she lost, decided that he had no choice but to unite behind Abdul El-Sayed because the implications of what's going on with the Senate race, and Democrats know they must win Michigan, that really basically have a shot at any attempt to take over the Senate. And so what the Congresswoman is doing right here, she's deflecting on what she truly thinks about Abdul El-Sayed. And apparently, she's not the only one, because it gets worse.
Evan Barker, former Democrat campaign operative. Emma, what did the Democrats you talked to think about the Abdul interview?
I think a lot of them were pretty upset, actually. I don't think they were too happy. And I just want to say to everyone, I actually used to work for Abdul El-Sayed. I knew him personally. Like you, I also like him personally as a person. And I think he is a talented speaker and a great politician. That being said, his views, especially on these social and cultural issues, are just so out of touch with the average American person. I mean, he might as well be running in California and not in Michigan. And I think, this is the progressives' first chance, Jesse, to really show that they can win a swing state. And they might blow it if they don't come to terms with some of these issues. They don't view these issues as important. Last night, he even said to you, he said, this isn't something that most people talk about. It's just something that you guys talk about. But actually, people do talk about culture issues because they are a reflection of their values.
Facts. And here's why that matters. When you have Abdul El-Sayed going on Fox News and he's confronted about where he stands when it comes to medical transition procedures involving minors, and he then somehow compares that apples to apples to being circumcised, folks, that's giving you a direct line to his ideology and just how radical he is. And then he goes to try and minimize it by saying that is not what most voters are concerned about. Let's talk about what voters are concerned about. That's him simply deflecting in order to try and hide and somehow attempt to run toward being a more moderate candidate who's fighting for the working class.
And that's what progressives don't seem to understand, including Abdul.
Yeah, he dodged on men and women's sports, on calling the NFL racist. He dodged on, I guess, what you'd call sex change surgeries for kids. That was a very bizarre analogy. And, you know, he could get away with Medicare for all and taxing the rich and getting out of Iran. He can get away with that. But Michigan is Michigan. And he is, and the margin of error is like this. What was he thinking?
I mean, I talked to Democrats still behind the scenes, those who are actually even supporting Abdul, and they secretly agree with me, Jesse. But it's just the problem is, and I don't know what's truly in his heart. I don't know if he really believed the things he was saying to you last night. I find it hard to believe, since only 20% of the country agree that, you know, children should be able to have sex change surgeries. You know, it's kind of an 80-20 issue. But I think the problem is that he's truly captured by his radical base. He's captured by the consultants, by the donors. It's really, really hard. And unfortunately, it's going to take somebody like Abdul with courage to be able to withstand some punches from his own side and actually give clarity and common sense back to Democrats on these issues.
I mean, I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. Democrats have been lacking common sense for a very long time now, which is why, where do you get a load of this? You have Democrats in Michigan Rep Karen Whitsett openly campaigning against Abdul El-Sayed. I mean, take a look at this. This is really happening.
Abdul El-Sayed is extremely scary. The people that he have around him speak nothing but rhetoric. One of his key spokespeople, he has done on social media, and you can look it up for yourself, regarding how much he's a racist and how proud of it he is.
I don't give a what black people care about. Oh, black people care about this, black people care about that. Like, shut the up. Black folk want to engage in radical activist language in this chat. Suck my back to a better time when lynchings were happening. This is what I like. It's because I'm racist. That's why. It's because I'm racist, dude.
I'm not voting for someone that's who he keeps company with. I don't expect your friends to be everything that you think and say and do. But when we're talking about rhetoric like that, and that 9/11, that the United States deserved that.
America deserved 9/11, dude. I'm saying it.
What else is he up to?
Folks, there it is. That's the truth, because Abdul El-Sayed has not come out and disavowed or condemned Hassan Piker. Instead, what he chooses to do when questioned and confronted is he tries to frame it as if you're getting it wrong and he's the one who's getting it right. Take a listen.
I think for a lot of us who've been watching politics over the last 10 years, frankly, before that, there's always this question of like, how or why are people so angry at all of it? And I think it's because too often when you hear about politics, you hear politics covered as sport, right? Like Hassan Piker is a streamer in California. You would think if you turned on any media that this whole campaign is about a streamer in California. That's not what this campaign has ever been about. This campaign has always been about the ability to afford your groceries in Michigan, the ability to send your kid to a good school in Michigan, the ability to see a doctor in Michigan. Those are the questions I'm interested in answering and asking. So that's what we've been doing across this campaign. And so, you know, I'm less interested in going to the sort of like tabloid version of our politics where we cover this as like, oh, who's in, who's out, who's up, who's down, who's talking to who. And I'm a lot more interested in talking to the people in the state who've had a bum deal because of Donald Trump and the politics that Mike Rogers has been the epitome of for a very long time.
Yeah, so total deflection. Did you catch the shift where he went from, I don't want to talk about Hassan Piker because why would I talk about the individual and the group I use to catapult me to win my Democrat primary, the radical left base that I'm beholden to? I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about how I'm going to make life better for the working class. I want to feed you my talking points on those issues because I could at least, you know, feed you some BS on that I can't really give you on the other stuff because I'm beholden to that radical base that expects a certain kind of language from me. I mean, think about it, folks. the agenda he wants to push lines up perfectly already with his radical base. So that's why he wants to avoid the social part of it and talk about the agenda that he plans on pushing, taxing billionaires, taxing the rich more, Medicare for all. I mean, think about it. That lines up basically with the socialist agenda. And yeah, and so it's quite evident why you see Syed deflecting anything that has to do with speaking on the social issue. He wants to avoid that, but it's more than happy to talk about what you would consider more political, economic, those issues, because he gets to then kill two birds with one stone. He gets to still please his far left radical base while also then trying to sound like he's championing the working class family and fighting for them. But he's going to keep on getting confronted, and the more he chooses to avoid and deflect, the more of a disaster it's going to become. Check this out.
That was the most pathetic half-baked attempt. I was going to use a different word, but I cleaned it up. That was not any shape, way, or form a statement of disavowing, condemning, or pushing himself away from Hassan Piker. Hassan Piker is a D-class angertainment, violence perpetuator on a Twitch stream that literally wants to traffic in people's anger and fear mongering. That is what he does. But here's where Abdul El Sayed has a problem. You cannot rent Hassan Piker's audience during the primary and then ask Michigan voters to forget whose megaphone you borrowed in order to build your campaign. He is going to forever be tied to Hassan Piker in what he has said to date and what he says moving forward.
She knelt it, period. And this is why currently you have this Democrat civil war taking place, because Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, they thought that they would be able to simply allow this far left fringe wing to be able to, they thought they'd be able to use them basically and still maintain control and power without actually ever having a direction for the party. If you notice, they don't have any agenda. They don't have any plan when it comes to anything. Their agenda, their plan is basically, we want to impeach Trump. We're going to stop Trump. That's as far as it goes. And so while this far left wing that they thought they could control, while, yeah, sure, what they're offering is actually far more radical, far more progressive. I mean, for those on the left, you have one or two choices. You end up gravitating and falling for what the socialists are selling, or you end up, as we're seeing some Democrats, they're saying, no go. I'm actually going to end up voting for the other guy. I'm going to actually cross party lines. And it's only getting worse because Abdul El Sayed is resorting to slandering President Trump in order to actually avoid answering the question. Check this out.
I had a question for you about some criticism you've been taking in recent days from other Democrats in the state. Congressman Scholten has been critical of your association with Hassan Piker. The Attorney General Nessel said today that she believed that you were perhaps making excuses for domestic terrorism. Are you going to speak with these folks? How do you respond to that criticism?
Yeah, I've had a number of conversations with folks across my party and elsewhere. I think the question right now is, how do we get together to beat Donald Trump? You know, if folks are serious about Trump being the existential threat that I know he is, then I think it is critical for all of us to come together to beat his chosen lackey here in Michigan. You know, I think there's a narrative that he's trying to push that somehow we're disunited. There is no poll justification for that, no evidence for that. And I think there are a few people who are still nursing wounds or grievances from the primary.
I don't know, folks. At this rate, Abdul El Sayed sounds like he's going to start sounding a whole lot closer to Kamala Harris as more time goes on, and as he continues to try and deflect actually addressing what everyone continues to ask him about with Hassan Piker. I mean, the word salads are... They're loading. I feel like they're loading, ladies and gentlemen. But now it's time to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Don't forget, hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel to stay locked in with all the future videos. And as always, until next time.